Hello students, welcome to another lesson presented by the Learning Depot. I'm Lulu Shaw. In today's lesson, we are going to learn about a topic that has been often asked by many students, and that is, how can I increase my reading comprehension? Well, today we're going to tackle one of those strategies, and that is by unlocking the author's text structure. Now you may be asking yourself, what is text structure? And the reality is that text structure is nothing more than the pattern of organization that the author uses to organize her writing. Once you understand that there are common types of text structures, your reading comprehension will improve. You will be able to identify signal words and transitional words that will help you understand what text structure the author is using. And you will have a clearer expectation of what it is you're going to be reading. And that way you will be able to adjust your comprehension and make predictions to better understand what you're reading. Let's begin. How an author writes a paragraph, an essay, a story, or even a book has to do with the organizational structure. And today we're going to look at that organizational structure, specifically text structure. Understanding the text structure for both narrative and expository text will help you understand the author's writing patterns and how they are logically connected. For literary text, there are 8 basic elements that you need to be aware of to follow along with the author's organizational pattern and improve your comprehension. These are characters, setting, the initiating event, an internal response, an attempt, a consequence or resolution, a reaction, and the theme, lesson, or essential message. Let's look at how these elements of literary text play out in a simple story that we all know, Little Red Riding Hood. In Little Red Riding Hood, we know that the main characters are Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf. We also have secondary characters like the grandmother and the woodsman or the hunter, and tertiary characters like the mother. But the main characters are Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf. And depending on who's telling the story, some people may actually say that the wolf is the main character. But we'll just say that Little Red Riding Hood is the main character. The setting takes place in a wood or forest and in the grandmother's cottage. The initiating event takes place when Little Red Riding Hood meets the wolf in the forest and disobeys her mother by talking to strangers. This ties into the theme, the lesson, or the essential message of the story. Remember that these do not necessarily go in order. They're all interconnected. Let's talk about the internal response. A character's internal response is an emotion or a cognition, a goal that a character has. And in this case, Little Red Riding Hood's internal response is she wants to get to her grandmother's cottage. The wolf has a different internal response. He wants to eat the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood. And here we go into the attempt. The attempt is an overt action to obtain the protagonist or the antagonist's goal. Here we would say that the protagonist is Little Red Riding Hood and the antagonist is the wolf. This internal response triggers a series of events in each character's attempt to achieve their goal, leading to some type of conflict. Throughout the story, you will notice the characters' actions and reactions as they attempt to fulfill their goals. There are consequences to their choices, and this also moves the plot along to the resolution, where the main character either attains or does not attain the goal. In the case of Little Red Riding Hood, she did attain the goal through much conflict, but she did. She was safe at the end. The wolf obviously does not attain his goal of eating the grandmother or Little Red Riding Hood because the woodsman comes in and takes care of the wolf. Now when we look at the theme, lesson, or essential message of Little Red Riding Hood, there are a few. Let's take a look at some. Now note that these elements that we talked about in literary text are just the basic ones. There are many more which we will address in depth at a later video. Let's go on to expository text. And for expository text, there are 5 basic elements that you must be aware of in order to follow along with the author's organizational pattern. These are descriptive, problem solution, time order or chronological, compare and contrast, and cause and effect. Let's look at examples of these 5 text structures in a sample passage. As we read, let's look for signal words and transitions that reveal the organizational pattern. Let's look at this passage about the Maltese dog. Maltese can be playful, charming, and loving, making them a perfect companion. With their silky white fur and their big black eyes, Maltese are irresistible dogs. The origin of the Maltese is disputed. Some think the breed originated in Malta, but its history dates back to Roman times. Aristotle mentions the breed in 370 BC, and writers in the early 1st century AD identified the breed as originating from the Mediterranean island of Malta. Maltese are prone to excessive barking and are highly excitable. Because of this, the Maltese were the most surrendered dogs in Australia in 2004. And although Maltese are very yappy and loud, their excessive barking can be curbed. This can be done through training when they are young puppies. Unlike other breeds of dogs that shed excessively, or larger dogs that require lots of outdoor exercise, the Maltese does not shed and is hypoallergenic. They are the perfect companion for apartment dwellers since they do not require a lot of outdoor exercise. Were you able to identify the signal words that showed the text structure of each paragraph? Let's take a look. Note that in a descriptive text structure, you are going to be looking for characteristics stating what or who, describing or explaining what happened. In the problem solution, a problem is presented and possible solutions are given. Time order or chronological gives information in order of occurrence and uses signal words of time. In comparison and contrast, we are establishing similarities and differences between items. And in cause and effect, we're explaining or giving reasons as to why something happens. In today's lesson, you learned about the structural features of text. You learned about the features of literary text and expository text. Make sure to go back and review the parts of the video that you did not understand, and if you have a question, leave it in the comment section below and I'll make sure to answer it. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.